The 14th Dalai Lama and the Anatomy of Politically Correct Buddhism, a multimedia presentation, Part 1, based upon Stephen's chapter in Westmont University Professor Inross, A Guide to New Religious Movements, published by InterVarsity Press in 2005. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put childish ways behind me. 1 Corinthians 13:11. As a child, I loved creation, felt close to my loved ones, felt the mystery of life, believed that all would be well with life. I didn't know what it was to be deceived, nor what it was to treasure my freedom, nor my liberty, nor what it meant for a land to be defiled. Little did I know at that age that only years earlier, thousands of men from opposing countries had died defending their country's ideals, some whose last painful memories were of salty brine, of sandy beaches, beaches that at one time were one man's paradise, may have become another man's hell. Out of obedience to my Lord, I must perform a most disagreeable task, but hard tasks fell to the prophets, such as Isaiah or Jeremiah, who had to speak to a people who would not hear, or to the prophet Ezekiel, whose warning carried with it a choice either to follow God's counsel or suffer the resulting judgment if the warning went unheeded. Many have found the Dalai Lama's life exceptionally intriguing, and his ability as a leader to draw people into his cause remarkable. However, and this is a however with much gravity, and given much thought, it is a talk that I as a watchman must give and will undoubtedly offend some of my listeners, but one I am constrained to deliver, about a global leader who many compare to Gandhi or Jesus. Jesus, he is not, never will be. Is there anything we can learn from this man? Every leader's life has lessons from which we can learn. Many of our greatest lessons come from our greatest adversaries. However, those who do not study history are doomed to repeat its mistakes. Truth is an eternally non-negotiable matter, leading to spiritual life or spiritual death. Ultimately, doctrine does affect the fruit produced through practice. Belief behaves. Ground Zero. Lesson 1 from September 11th. What you don't know can kill you. Lesson 2. Someone was asleep at the wheel. Our enemy was not. Lesson 3. Eternal vigilance is necessary to protect the fruit of liberty. Samuel Huntington wrote, "What ultimately counts for people is not political ideology or economic interest. Faith and family, blood and belief are what people identify with and what they will fight and die for." Unlike the Judeo-Christian immigrants from Europe admitted through Ellis Island a century before, Tibetans arriving from Asia have a religious worldview diametrically opposed to a belief in one God. Critical thinking is absolutely necessary when we host, interact with, or share our faith with people of other religious persuasions. Christians have a duty to investigate religious systems that impact their lives, to compassionately and effectively proclaim the gospel in full understanding of the context of world history. Os Guinness, born in China and educated at Oxford, issued a stern warning in 1973 that the Church has yet to heed. The swing to the East has come at a time when Christianity is weak at just those points where it would need to be strong to withstand the East. Without this strength, the Eastern religions will be to Christianity a new, dangerous Gnosticism. But this time, much of the fight will be lost before many see the nature of the danger. Early in 1996, 3,000 tickets for the annual Distinguished Speaker Series at the Pasadena Civic Auditorium featuring the Dalai Lama had sold out within an hour. Since no seats were available, I decided to go down in Jay Leno fashion and conduct some on-the-street interviews of people waiting to get a glimpse of the God King of Tibet. As that balmy Southern California evening arrived, the air was filled with the anticipation of an opening night in Hollywood. Black limousines carrying the Dalai Lama and his U.S. Diplomatic Security Service escort pulled up to the Mediterranean-style auditorium. A smattering of celebrities mingled with monks from a variety of Buddhist sects as the large crowd lined up to pass through the specially installed security stations. I was standing near Heather, a slender, hippish woman in her 20s, who was observing that evening's crowd and occasionally asking if a passerby had any extra tickets. Nonchalantly, I asked, "So what brings you out here this evening?" She replied, "Oh, I hitchhiked out here this summer from the Ozarks with my boyfriend to attend the empowerment ceremonies with the Dalai Lama. Tonight we decided to see if we could attend his public talk on ethics for the new millennium." "Will you be disappointed if you can't get in?" I inquired. Without hesitation, she mused, "Not really. I've been watching all the well-dressed people going in and decided they probably need to hear him more than I do." Since she was open, I posed a slightly more personal question. Hypothetically, let's say that Jesus Christ and the Dalai Lama were standing here before you, and you had the opportunity to choose one to follow. Who would get your vote? While she was thinking, I silently thought of the prophet Elijah, who posed a similar question to his countrymen, asking, "How long will you hesitate between two opinions? Who would you select? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal, follow him." She paused for a moment and then said, "The Dalai Lama." Observing my somewhat baffled look, she confessed, "Well, he is the spiritual leader of our day, who's bringing everyone together. He seems to fit our times better, and although I find Jesus attractive, I don't feel the same about most Christians." When asked why the Dalai Lama was so popular, she commented, "Well, I think he's like the Wizard of Oz, reflecting people's illusions of what they want to believe." At first I was taken aback, but then I recognized that her comments represented a growing number of people in our society who wholeheartedly embrace Buddhism as their religion of choice. According to Robert Withnow, a sociologist of religion, and Wendy Cage, an ethnographer, 1 out of every 7 Americans has had at least a fair level of contact with Buddhism, and that 1 out of 8 Americans reported that Buddhism had influenced their religious life. The math? Although there are only 4 million Buddhists in the U.S., there are 26 million adults that favorably include Buddhist elements, a little or a lot, in their lives, leaving no doubt that the lotus is blooming in America. Studies indicate there are presently more than 1,600 Buddhist temples, centers, and monasteries in America, many of them Tibetan. In the 12 years between 1985 and 1997, more Buddhist meditation centers were established than the total number founded in the first 85 years of the 20th century. Most of the temples were concentrated around major urban centers of political, economic, and cultural importance: Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Denver, Dallas, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Boston, New York, and Hawaii.